order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. You can be seated. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you for being patient. We just had a closed session, so we're running a little bit long. Supervisor Ung's on the phone with us, and Supervisor Dietrich won't be joining us. He's at a funeral for one of his family members, so condolences to Supervisor Dietrich. First up is order of business is just the approval of the agenda. With that, I will move it.
Second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion passes 4-0. Next up is the consent agenda. Items 2 through 8 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 2 is approval of the minutes of the June 24th, 2025 meeting. Number 3 is approval of claims. Number 4 from Human Resources, Melissa Thomas. It's the approval of the memorandum of personnel transactions. Number 5, some secondary roads, Laura Sievers, approval of the disposition of the unused AMZ pothole patcher machine. That's interesting. I wonder what that is. Yeah. Number 6, from WCICCIT, John Malloy. It's approval of items to be auctioned per personnel property disposition policy. Number 7, from Board Administration, Heather Vincicle. It's approval of notice of property sale resolution for parcel ending in 3008, aka 1001 Helen Street for Tuesday, July 15th at 4:35 p.m. Number 8, from Board Administration, Karen James, approval of reappointment of John Mansfield to the Veterans Affairs Commission. Item B is approval of appointment of Philip Hines to the Veterans Affairs Commission. Item C is approval of the appointment of Greg Yoakum and Bruce Sorensen to the Commission to assess damages, Category A, owner-operators of agricultural. Item D is approval of appointment of Mark Vos to the Commission to assess damages, Category C, licensed real estate salesman or real estate broker. And item E is approval of appointment of Dennis Raymond to the Commission to assess damages, Category D, persons having knowledge of property values in the county by reason of their occupation. And with that, that ends the consent agenda, and I will move that.
Second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion passes 4-0. All right, that brings us to item 9 from the Woodbury County Fire Association. This is from Devin Amick. It's approval to fund a mental health speaker for first responders in the amount of $5,000. We were tabled this last week to get clarification from our county attorney, and Mark and I and our supervisor should have seen that. There's 2 uses underneath the opioid funds to be able to do this. If one of them was if the speaker mentioned or talked about, discussed opioid-related deaths or just treatment or not falling into addiction, stuff like that. And so I thank you for being here, Devin. We reached out to find out. I reached out to you to find out if the speaker would be mentioning anything, and you said, I'm just going to read your email, what you sent back to me. He said that this is part of his speech regarding mental health and PSD, seeing these tragic incidents. He goes into not drowning yourself in alcohol or opioids to relieve the stress that you are dealing a lot with. A lot of the first responders get into opioids and drugs when they hit rock bottom. The speaker raises awareness not to let that, to not let it get to that point, excuse me. So it sounds like you're saying from your email that he does address opioid-related abuses or in this field. Okay. All right. So,
Yeah, I talked to a lot of constituents about this, and there were some reservations on, the funding mechanism of it, and quite a few of them said, could it come from the opioid fund? So then that was kind of great, because then that ended up being our discussion last week, and we found out that that's something that would work. And so some of the folks that followed along, we talked about that over the weekend, and they thought that was a very appropriate use. Correct. And so given on the feedback that I've gotten, and I do think that it is appropriate, so I would go ahead and I would make the motion to fund your mental health speaker in the amount of $5,000 from the opioid settlement funds.
All right, I will second that. All right, so motion by Nelson, second by Vidger. Any comments, concerns? All right. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0.
All right, thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks, sir. Thank you for being here. Number 10, from Human Resources, Melissa Thomas. It's approval of the revision of the Woodbury County Employee Handbook Vacation Policy.
I'm Melissa Thomas, Human Resources Director, and I'm here today to get approval for the new Woodbury County vacation policy for our wage plan staff. Now, the revised policy is in your backup, but there's just a few things I kind of wanted to cover. The first would be 80 hours at the start of employment. Cannot use it for 30 days. So after that time, then they could use the 2 weeks. With that said, at the first anniversary, there will be they will be able to carry over, since they will not be accruing during that first year. I think that's important. Also, if a person quits in the first year, they cannot get paid out for that vacation time. I think this is really important. It's going to help our retention and recruitment, and give people some time off they need. Any questions?
All right.
I'll move it.
Okay, I'll second that. All right, motion by Young, second by Bittinger. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, for your work on this. All right, we're almost, got about 4 more minutes to our 4:45 PM set time. With that, let's go on to number 12. From Planning and Zoning, Daniel Priestley. Item A is the approval to receive the report recommendation from the Woodbury County Zoning Commission concerning zoning ordinance text amendments for nuclear energy facilities, nuclear waste storage, related uses, and amendments to reorganize the ordinance. Dan?
Yeah, this item is simply to transfer over the recommendation from the Zoning Commission to the Board of Supervisors concerning the nuclear energy issue. They have a set recommendation that's in the packet that on the subsequent item, we're going to ask you to schedule public hearings for considering that. So this is just simply part of the process.
Okay.
They ultimately came with a conditional use permit process recommendation for the general industrial zoning district.
Okay. I will move that approval to receive.
Second.
Second by Carper. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0. Then item B is the approval to set the July 22nd at 4:40 PM, July 29th at 4:40 PM, and August 5th at 4:40 PM for 3 public hearings on zoning ordinance text amendments concerning nuclear energy facilities, nuclear waste storage, related uses, and the reorganization of the ordinance. With that, I will move that.
Second.
All right. Motion by Bittinger, second by Carper. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Dan. Is there one more item? Oh, item C, sorry. Let me flip the page over. There we go. This is a longer one. Item C is approval to receive the report recommendation from the Woodbury County Zoning Commission concerning zoning ordinance text amendments to bring the Woodbury County zoning ordinance in compliance with Iowa Code 331.30127 as it pertains to accessory dwellings in the AP, AE, and R in the SR zoning districts.
Yes, and the zoning commission again sends a recommendation to bring the county zoning ordinance into compliance with the new state law as it pertains to allowing for a second dwelling on a property if it meets certain standards such as 1,000 square feet or 50% of the square footage of an existing house on the property.
Okay.
It's an interesting law, but it's above our heads now, so I will move it.
Second.
All right. Motion by Nelson, second by Carper. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0. All right, item D is approval to set July 22nd at 4:45 PM, July 29th at 4:45 PM, August 5th at 4:45 PM for 3 public hearings on zoning ordinance text amendments to bring the Woodbury County zoning ordinance in compliance with Iowa Code 331.30127 as it pertains to accessory dwellings in the AP, AE, NR, and SR zoning districts. And I will move that.
Sorry.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0. All right. Thank you, Dan, on that one. All right, we're almost to our 4:45 PM set time. With that, Laura, you want to come on up? And we've got about another minute here. And from Secondary Roads, Laura Sievers, it's approval of resolution and letter of support for the Competitive Highway Bridge Program Grant Project.
Correct. So this was the project I brought last week, letting you know that we are able to get pretty much $1 million on these two bridges near Bronson to replace. And part of that, since it's federal money, since the money is coming through Iowa, and since we're a sub-grantee, we're required to do a resolution saying that we're going to abide by their design and all of that. And then the agreement is just saying that DOT and us are going to pay for that project. We'll pay for anything that's beyond what they were going to give us for the project. If you'd like, I can read through it, but it's a lot of legal, so
Right.
it's what you would you like me to read that resolution, or it doesn't matter to me, but probably
Yeah,
time to.
I'm okay. Does the board want that read, or?
Wouldn't have to, but you are at your 4:45.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep, yeah, I would say we just hit forward. Yeah, hang tight here, Laura. Thank you. All right, let's go back to our 4:45 PM set time from Planning and Zoning, Dan Priestley. Item A is to conduct the third and final public hearing for zoning ordinance text amendment to revise the land use summary table of allowed uses, section 3.03.4, to classify borrow pits for earth materials as a conditional use within the agricultural estates zoning district. So with that, we will open up the public hearing for this. If you want to speak for or against this, please come to the mic, just state your name only and state your case.
Don't rush up all at once, right?
Right. We do want to hear from the public, if anyone's here. All right.
Seeing no public comment, Mr. Chair, I move that the public hearing be closed.
All right, I'll second that. So motion by Nelson, second by Bittinger. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0. Item B is approve the third reading as the final reading of the zoning ordinance text amendment. And with that, any comments, Dan? You good? Okay, all right. All right, with that, I will move that.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Carper. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0. And now item C is to adopt the zoning ordinance text amendment to revise the land use summary table of allowed uses, section 3.03.4, to classify borrow pits for earth materials, as a conditional use within the agricultural estates zoning district. And with that, I will move that myself.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Carper. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Dan. Okay, those are for you to sign there. Come on, yeah, come on back up, Laura.
All right, so.
And let's pick up with your-
I'll go through the resolution.
Yeah,
Whereas Woodbury County, Iowa Bridge FHWA numbers 053490 and 053510 have been identified as being part of a joint competitive highway bridge program grant project, and whereas Iowa Bridge FHWA numbers 053490 and 053510 have been included in a bundle as shown in the exhibit. Whereas we accept the contracting authority for the bundle as detailed in that exhibit and acknowledge the roles and responsibilities of each party as detailed in section 3 and 4. And whereas it is desired and in the interest of Woodbury County to participate fully in the CHBP project activities as a sub-recipient and provide all requisite information necessary to bring to completion all project phases through final completion. And whereas we are in support of the Iowa DOT providing primary recipient roles and duties. Whereas we understand and accept the sub-recipient roles and responsibilities as identified in the 2080 Cooperative Agreement for a Competitive Highway Bridge Program Grant Project, including its reference exhibits. Whereas each county, as shown in Section 4, Paragraph A, shall be responsible for all matching funds and accept any costs exceeding the funds requested in the CHBP grant application for their respective structure. And whereas it is the intent of Woodbury County upon award of CHBP funds to enter in federal aid agreement with the Iowa Department of Transportation. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Woodbury County, Iowa hereby approves and directs the chair to sign this letter of support for the Bridge Competitive Highway Bridge Program Grant Project and the 2080 cooperative agreement for a competitive highway bridge program grant project, and to provide all pertinent correspondence and project information to Nicole Skin, Secondary Roads Engineer, Iowa DOT Local Systems Bureau.
All right. Any questions by the board? All right, hearing none, I'll move approval of the resolution.
Second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say
Aye.
nay. All right, all opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0. All right.
you.
Thank you, Laura. I'm assuming you have something to sign, yeah, okay. Oh, no, you're good. Okay. All right, there you go. Thank you. All right. It's item 13. Next up from item 14, Burns Services, Drew Bear. It's approval to award the bid to the Tani Mara Inc. of Mobile for $42,516.
Good afternoon, Drew Beyer, Woodbury County Emergency Services. Has been brought up before and approved in FY26 budget to replace the front concrete apron area. I've got bids, if you guys want quotes of them or not, there's copies if you want to accept them. Everybody can check exactly
Sure.
what all
Okay.
list on there.
All right, move to receive.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Bittinger, second by Nelson. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0.
As you'll see, I required or asked for 3 different companies to come out and do bids. Only 2 responded and showed up on the premises. Both of them showed exactly the same markings in the concrete for replacement. So there's no gray area. There was exactly showing the person what
Correct.
exactly needed to be replaced. Upon that, I got the quotes or bids back in November. Both companies will honor the same bid price that they gave back in November to today's date. So there's no change, no variance with that number at all. As you can see there, I hope I say this right, Tani Mara put a bid in at $42,516. Corn Belt Construction, or Concrete and Construction, put it at $44,000 even. So with that being said, I had your recommendation or approval from the board to award the work to Tani for $42,516.
I move approval to award the bid to Tony Mar Inc. for $42,516.
Second.
All right, motion by Nelson, second by Carper. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Drew. All right. Next up, Conservation, Dan Heisel. It's the approval of funds in the amount of $275 from funds made up of CIP and lost funds to fund the 1 mile of road replacement at Little Sioux Park. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dan. And
$275,000.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, 275, excuse me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You said 275. If it was
That's a deal.
275, I think that would be a done deal. If we could, repave a mile for $275, that would be nice. But
Yeah.
Dan Heisel,
275,000.
Conservation.
that road's old enough, it might have been paid for $275. I don't know.
It could be. I looked at it again today wondering, oh boy. So, no, I'm back in front of you again. We had talked to you about this during CIP and we were looking at doing the 1.8 miles. I know Supervisor Dietrich made this suggestion that we cut this in half and try and fund half of it. And we would save $100,000 mobilization fee because the contractor is working on the road south of there. So, and then after it didn't go, of course, as funds were going, there wasn't enough funds. And Ryan, the budget director, approached me after the board meeting and says, well, could we look at some options? And I talked to Mark as our conservation liaison, and he suggested I contact all the supervisors, which I did. And I talked to all of you, and then Dan, you and I were texting back and forth. So, you know where I'm at on this. We're looking at doing. We want to look at the 1 mile. It'll be 0.9 or a mile, depending where they end on that intersection. And Ryan, you said you had some updates from the figures I had, but we originally were going to look at lost and the remaining funds for CIP and see if we could get this funded and get the road paved and save us $100,000 mobilization fee. So
Yeah, go ahead, Ron. Yeah, what do you have for the board? Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted, this is exactly what LOST is meant for infrastructure type projects. Right now, the total in the LOST fund, our projected ending balance at the end of fiscal '26 will be $228,000. And inside of that was 2 projects for conservation that will be supposedly at some point, $110,000, and you said 80% of that would be refunded by FEMA?
Yes.
So there are already 2 items that could potentially have some money coming back
Okay.
to LOST. Then I just wanted to say on the remaining amount of fiscal '26 CIP is 86,000. There's about 91,000 from '24 that's unallocated, so that is about 177,000. And then the other option I was, thinking of was gaming revenues. And that currently has a projected ending balance of 342,000. And as I was doing research, LOST generally, when we do the budgets, there's really no, not very many asks happen during the year on LOST. Gaming, you do have more asks happen during the year. So those were the 3. There's about 230 in LOST available, 342 in gaming, and 177 in CIP.
Right, and the CIP, that 177, that's what we were talking about the last couple of weeks when we approved the CIP budgets.
Yes,
That was the remaining
Yeah,
total.
we borrowed 1.2 million for fiscal '26, and after taking out all the projects that were approved, it left 86,000 that was still unallocated. And then after doing research, there were still some unallocated in fiscal '24. So as I said, the combination of the 2 is about 177.
Right. Yeah,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just want to use caution on the prior CIPs for new projects. They
Right.
have to meet the criteria of the original CIP.
Correct,
So
right.
as long as there was something in that original CIP that meets the same criteria as the project, you can reuse the funds for those purposes.
correct, yeah. Thank you, Michelle, yeah. Yeah, with that, now that I know, that was my first, well, it was gonna be my first comment. I think the more appropriate funds would be between LOST or gaming versus CIP. Just in light of that, to use potentially those funds more if we do that.
So we don't know that the 71,000 would be available.
Potentially, right. We'd have to have it. So, Brian, you said the 228, correct? In LOST?
Yeah, that's the projected ending balance.
Okay.
And there's how
Right.
much left for this year's CIP? 86.
And then that's also, like I said, 110 of what's been allocated out of LOST are those 2 projects that at some point we're going to be reimbursed by FEMA, but we just don't know when.
Correct.
One will be at 80%, and we're gonna go for 100% on the second one with the HUD funds.
Well, one way you look at it, let me do some math real quick here. I mean, I'm thinking when you said a combination between LOST and gaming, I like that with Swan and incurred debt. Something that needs to be done. Dan, how long, if we do the road, how long do you think it'll last? Just a projected.
A new road,
Yeah. Or Laura, or what's the
a new
projection?
blacktop road, if they grind it, and
Right, and your volume, I would say 30, 40 years.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I didn't know the answer, so.
That's fine, that's
I
fine.
wanted to turn to the
Right, so-
professional there,
So
so.
Laura said 30 to 40 years, right? So we're gonna, and of course, nothing goes wrong with a county project, of course. Okay,
If we got 25 years out of it, it
That'd
would be
be-
awesome,
okay.
so.
yeah. I mean, I've said it for my last 2 years on the board, I'd like to get us away from debt incursion projects as much as we can. I know it's not always inevitable, but, I mean, I'd be open to something using, 200,000 out of LOST, and then the rest out of gaming, 75,000 out of gaming, or, I don't know, 215 out of LOST, the rest out of gaming, something in that, just to leave something in lost funds. We know we're gonna get some of that back from the FEMA, but of course, it's a long wait. I would like to have something potentially in loss, just in case anything would come up during this next year. We have something, 10, 20, 30,000. I'd hate to drain it and something,
I understand. So
yeah. So whatever.
It'd be interesting to know what the prior years, the 71,000, the prior year's CIP, what we could use that for. Like, could that be used for the treasurer's office or the HR office or any of those? I mean, that'd be my question, because we had talked about like, some of the HR ones, paying that out of gaming because it was a smaller amount.
Correct.
But if we can't use this prior years for the road, then we could use that 71,000, like to do a project like that, but we'd have to know if it's a qualified expenditure or not. Do you know, Ryan?
In fiscal '24, 63,000 was never allocated to any project.
Oh, okay.
And the other 28,000 was for, it was a WCICC project. I think, I don't remember exactly which one, but it was, that was still, the project's done now.
So the 63,000 of that 63,000 from that prior year could be used towards this project because it was never allocated.
I will ask Michelle that.
My understanding is all of what was borrowed was allocated
Okay.
towards projects. And so in order to determine the use, you have to look at the actual document to see what the verbiage is in the document. And a lot of it is general enough that, yes, some of those things may fit within the categories, but you just have to pull to see how much is left for each year of the borrow. And given this maybe isn't the way it was done in the past, but my understanding is this is the way that it should be done, is that you look at that, if there's money left over, there's basically two options that I understand. One, you can pay down the debt, and two, you can use it for another project that meets the criteria that's within that document. And so you'd have to look at each of those to see how much is remaining and if it fits within what the projects are that are asked. James, does that sound like your understanding or of that?
I don't know the answer to that, Michelle. Sorry.
is that if they were allocated or if those funds are requested? Because we've requested these funds for like 12 years.
No, it has nothing to do with
it's
request.
the
It's
allocation.
when the money is borrowed, there's specific, all of the money that is allocated at that time, it's written within that document of what it's going to be used for. And like I said, usually, I haven't read them all thoroughly, but usually it's relatively general, so you can find projects that would meet that criteria still. So it might be something in there already about roads that it might fit. It just will take a little bit of research.
Right. Well, speaking of Ryan, and we went back over the few years of looking at the lost funds, right? Historically, after the budget season, nothing is usually,
Historically,
yeah.
after the budget, the lost funds were not, we'll say, touched, except for this last year, we did use $150,000 for the Mobile
Correct.
project.
Right. So one-time ask. So here's some numbers. If I would just say, just for thought, if we take 215,000 out of lost and 60,000 out of gaming, that would still give us a remaining $282,000 at the end of fiscal year 26 out of gaming. And that would leave us 13,000 left in lost at the end of fiscal year 26. If we get the full, it was 85%. I remember from, I think FEMA, correct? Wasn't it 85?
One's 85,
And
and
one's
then
80.
the other one, if we get the HUD funds, would be 100, but they could
Okay.
both be at 85%.
Right, so roughly, if it's both at 85, assuming at the high end, that's $93,000 return into loss, so that would give us $106,000 if FEMA pays us by the end of fiscal year 26. So I would like us to see, I would say the loss in gaming seems like a better move, since it's a 30-year project that'll last, keeps us out of paying any interest on the debt. Those funds will replenish in a year, and leave the CIP money for some of our current projects that were presented. That's my thought. If the board wants to knock this project out, get it done, and not do debt.
I guess my initial thought was that we'd be able to use the rest of the CIP, and then we'd need a short 100,000 to fund the rest of the road. And so we've got a question mark on the 71. We don't on the 86, so I would for sure like to see us use up the 86 on this. And obviously I'm one of five, but in Mark's head, we were gonna take 30,000 to do the HR office out of gaming. So if we can use the old CIP, that's fine. It's not coming out of gaming. So I guess I would like to see us use up at a minimum this year's, the rest of that CIP at 86,000, and then the balance come out of lost in gaming, to not, pull those accounts down, and then we'll have to dig into that prior year CIP and see what we can use the balance of that money for.
Okay. Yeah. Well, with that, with some of this knowledge, maybe it might be best, seems like the board be open to looking at different options. Maybe we need to research some more, Ryan, look into that, make sure with CIP make sure that we are meeting the criteria.
Dan, is there any time constraints on this project? Like when does the
Saving that
contract?
$100,000, I was wondering about that myself with the time constraints.
I would have to consult with Laura, the county engineer, and we'd probably her staff would probably be talking to the contractor to see if all this is gonna be good and if we're gonna push it back. I don't wanna be putting words in anybody's mouth, but
But they're starting to put asphalt on D38, because I was on it this weekend, and they're starting, so I mean, they were just doing like the thin little initial layer, and they'd only gone so far on one lane, but I mean, so I would say time is kind of the essence,
So do we have another week or 2 weeks to table this, or is it
Well,
do this today?
It sounds like, it sounds like we might want to table just to confirm about unspent previous CIP projects, to make sure we're not doing anything that's out of bounds. Make sure we can, if we use CIP, for any mixture of CIP.
I
for
understand.
this. So
Yep.
I would hate to make a presumption and make a motion and then we have to come back and reverse that, so. I would say let's not be in a hurry. I've always have said, let's not be in a rush to make a decision, and
well, then with Laura, would you agree to get in contract and I could discuss that with you and then we could have an answer for you?
no, that'd be great, yeah.
And if you wish, then I'd put it back on the agenda for next, or if Ryan wanted to put it, I don't care who puts it on, but
Yeah.
Because ideally, I would like to use up all the CIP from this year and the prior year, if that's an option. If not, I'd like to use up all of this year and then subsidize that from lost gaming, or a combination of.
Okay. Well, let's do this. So I'll move the table, and let's bring it back next week. Ryan, I'll work with you. Why don't we get with Allers and Cooney, and why don't we make sure we have all the answers, make sure everything's in a row, and
Mr. Chairman, do you want to put it back on the agenda
Yes,
then?
I'll put it back on,
You'll put
yes.
it back on?
Yep.
Because I'd just be duplicating the paperwork to you,
Right.
so,
Yeah,
and you're
I'll-
working with Ryan, so thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, let's put it on, and let's make sure we get the right decision.
And I'll get with-
information. So I'll move, let
Laura.
me make a motion, to table it.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Bittinger, second by Carper. All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes 4-0. So-
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan, for being
Good
here.
discussion, thank you.
Yep. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, that's item 15. On to item 16, reports on committee meetings. Any, hearing none? All right, let's make sure. All right. Hearing none, let's move on to item 17, citizen concerns.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just wanted to bring it to your attention that you all probably have heard that we will have a special election on August 26th
Yes.
to fill the unfortunate passing of Senator DeWitt.
Mm-hmm.
And so the governor did set that date. I had communicated with the Secretary of State, who works with them before setting the date, hoping that we could schedule that outside of the school season. Unfortunately, that is the day after school starts, which is
Okay.
August 25th. So I'll be working with my team to determine what we're going to do as far as the polling locations.
Okay.
This will be voting in 22 precincts, which is 1/2 of the precincts for the county.
Okay.
And just for the public's awareness, Both parties, the Democrats and the Republican, will have a convention to nominate the individuals who will run for those parties. And if anyone else wants to file, they'll be filing with the Secretary of State if they don't belong to the Democrat or the Republican Party to run.
Okay.
And that filing deadline will be August 1st. We'll have a better timeline and calendar of events as the days progress, and I'll probably be putting a press release out next week to discuss more about where those locations will be.
Okay.
Michelle, why did the governor not elect to coincide the special election with the other election that we already have planned this fall?
So a special election cannot be at the same time as a school election.
Why is
So
that?
Well, that's one of the legislated, laws. Why? I don't know.
Isn't it true, Michelle, isn't it like if a member passes away or vacates a seat, it has to be filled within 45 to 60 days, or is that?
If it's during session,
session,
yes,
okay,
it's
okay.
within 45 days.
Gotcha.
When they're not in session, then that doesn't apply.
Right,
It just
okay.
has to be as soon as possible. And there is something specifically in the legislation that states that a special election cannot be held at the same time or for this purpose of the school election. And it's the city school election in November.
The irony of it is that you have the governor and representatives and senators in Des Moines that are constantly attacking counties for property taxes, right? And then they schedule a special election that we're gonna have to do a lot of extra work for. And I don't know what the cost is gonna be. And we're going to have an election anyway, 2 months later. Like, if that's not incredible irony,
Yeah, good point, Mark.
I was hopeful that they would coincide with that November election. And then, like you said, so you got school in session, so you're gonna have all these activities, and I feel for you guys trying to find polling locations, because what a mess, But I just get sick and tired of them saying we're the problem, and they make problems daily for us. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
Well, I think, Mark, they're just making the unions happy. Pretty sure the teachers' unions like it when they have a separate election.
All right. Anything else, Michelle, will you need from us on that, anything, or you'll let us know?
I will definitely
Okay.
keep you
All right.
posted.
All right. I would say if you reach out to a lot of the churches, I know our church always held elections. We miss having people there. It was nice,
Yes,
that's,
and we have held them at churches before, but the
Yeah.
legislation also says that priority should be given to public facilities, and they are to allow us to have the elections at their
Okay.
facilities free of charge, and they cannot basically decline us.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. Did not know that. Okay. All right. Moving on to board concerns.
How about the board office being closed?
Yes, I'll bring that up. Yep. Yeah. On Thursday morning, just an update. The board office will be closed. I know our staff are going to be going to Rocky's celebration service, and so anyhow, so just FYI that we'll have that closed. I do have an award that was presented on Thursday, and so I'll hold this up. This is the County of the Year presented to Woodbury County, Iowa from Simcoe 2025. Thursday night was their 60th anniversary of Simcoe, and they were looking at all the counties and all the work being done, and so Woodbury County was the recipient of that. Let me read to you the press release about that. And so it was a great meeting. Our former county engineer was there. I got to sit with Mark and talk with him, and it was great to see him. And former Supervisor Raddick was there and recognized for his work with Simcoe over the years. And so let me just read to you just briefly here. This is the County of the Year Award goes to Woodbury County. This year, in addition to the Community of the Year recognition, we are proud to introduce the County of the Year Award, a distinction that celebrates unity, resilience, and forward-thinking leadership at the county level. We are thrilled to announce that the 2025 County of the Year Award goes to Woodbury County, Iowa. Woodbury County has demonstrated an exceptional commitment to collaboration, innovation, and sustainable growth. A standout achievement in it is its partnerships with Simcoe on the countywide comprehensive plan update, a visionary roadmap shaped by community input and data-driven insights. This plan exemplifies smart planning that positions the county for long-term success. What truly sets Woodbury County apart is its spirit of cooperation. From the long-term anticipated progress on the South Bridge interchange, a Simcoe priority since 2005, to the opening of the county's first roundabout in partnership with the city of Sioux City, teamwork has been at the heart of every milestone. The county's dedication to economic development is equally commendable. The Woodbury County Board of Supervisors provided critical funding to support a new child care facility in Mobile, addressing a vital community need. In Salix, the community worked hand in hand with local leaders to tackle stormwater drainage challenges, showcasing its responsiveness and problem-solving approach. Additionally, Woodbury County Emergency Management continues to enhance disaster preparedness and response, strengthening the county's overall resilience. On behalf of Simcoe, it is our greatest pleasure to present the 2025 County of the Year Award to Woodbury County, Iowa. Congratulations, and thank you for your leadership, your vision, and your unwavering commitment to shaping a stronger and more connected region. So thank you to everyone, all of our staff, the supervisors, our elected officials, our department head leaders, and to every employee here that makes this Woodbury County a great place to work and a place to live. So it was very well received that night, and so thank you for all that. It was a pleasure to bring this back. We'll have this up in the board office. And so one thing I would like to know, Debbie Durham, the Iowa Economic Development Director, was there. She was our keynote speaker. In her speech, she brought up the modular nuclear light water reactors. And she just brought up, the point was, she said is that as businesses are growing, we need energy to bring new businesses to regions. And it's kind of known that Woodbury County needs more energy. And she, in the middle of her speech, she had just mentioned, she goes, I've heard and I've seen that the Board of Supervisors was amending through the planning and zoning, amending the uses for nuclear. And then she'd also said we'd heard that they were considering modular nuclear energy to provide energy. And so I was able to respond to that. And she just said that she believes that Woodbury County is way far ahead of anyone else in the nation, of any county, regarding this potential using the spent nuclear fuel as energy. And so she was very excited, and afterwards we got to talk just briefly, and it was a pleasure to meet her for the first time, but she just said that Woodbury County needs to reach out to her and that they would help us along with that. And she thinks that this would be a great project for Iowa to showcase progressive thinking, innovation regarding infrastructure development in our county. So thank you to the board, thank you to Dan Priestley and the Planning and Zoning Board. I know they're not here in Board of Adjustment, but somehow that had reached all the way to Des Moines, and they're watching. So that was just a great, another great thing to be proud of for Woodbury County here. So that's all that I have for board concerns.
I have a couple, I forgot, I guess during committee meetings, I always forget, but we had an LEC authority meeting this afternoon. The main update that we had was, in weeks prior, we talked about the soundproofing of the jury rooms and how there was sound that was floating in from the courtrooms or from the hallways, and we had suspicions that the soundproofing insulation may not have been installed correctly. And so last week, while they're working on the doors, which also have seals on them to keep sound out, they tore into some of the drywall, and they found that the soundproof insulation was installed incorrectly, completely missing in places. And so that's not a cost that we're going to incur. It's the contractor's going to be, liable for that, but it just continues to shine a spotlight on the poor workmanship that went on out there. It was very blatant in the specs what they had to do. I asked the question today if there were any other areas of this building that had the same type of soundproofing, and it didn't. So they were 0 for 1. I wouldn't think that would be too hard of a feat, but the tough part now is that our courts are like a train. They just can't be stopped. They are busy. They have tight schedules, and they need these jury rooms. And so we can only do so much. The judges can only do so much, and so the contractor's going to have to bend over backwards to get this rectified. But that's their problem. They should have done it right the first time. It was you're not talking a lot of space. This is drywall and insulation is a very simple concept. So that was unfortunate to hear that. But again, it just gives credence to what we're dealing with out there. But on to some good news. We're about a month out from the Woodbury County Fair starting. That's going to start July 30th, go through August 3rd, and they are always looking for volunteers to help with 4-H livestock shows. You do not have to be, from a farm or any agricultural background to volunteer. And also the Woodbury County Fair is always looking for volunteers. And so I just encourage people to get involved, call, and there's lots of different categories that you can get involved in. I know the youth that participate, I really appreciate that. So keep that in mind as we're 30 days out from Woodbury County Fair. Secondly, we had my tractor ride fundraiser for Still in the Classroom this weekend. It was the biggest turnout we had. It was the 7th annual. We had folks from 8 different counties here in Iowa outside of Woodbury, as well as 2 states. And we had 58 tractors and drivers plus 13 passengers. And so we had a big turnout. We traversed just a little over 58 miles of Woodbury County secondary roads. I had a lot of compliments throughout the day of our roads. And so folks from other counties come up to me and said, why can't we do this in our county? So I said, well, we have a talented engineer. I didn't take any credit. So, but it was great. We got to see a lot of scenery along the way, and it's always fun when I get to show off and showcase Woodbury County. So we'll make plans for next year. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Mark. All right. Any other board concerns?